The night sky was filled with stars. Cold and endless, on the edge of a forgotten outpost, a human soldier walked his lonely patrol, his boots pressed against the metal floor, his breath turning white in the air. He thought it was another quiet night, far from battles and far from home. But something in the darkness waited for him, something that should not have been there. From the shadows, she appeared, an alien woman from a species known for power and pride. Her skin shimmered faintly under the light of the moon, her eyes glowing with a strange fire. She was injured, her steps weak, yet her face carried a strength that refused to fall. The soldier froze, his hand on his weapon. Unsure if she was a threat or a ghost, the silence between them grew heavy. And even the wind seemed to stop. She stumbled, her body trembling. And in that moment she looked less like an enemy and more like someone desperate. Her lips parted, but no sound came, only a small gasp. She reached forward as if to call for help, but her pride stopped her words. The soldier's heart pounded. He had been told that aliens of her kind never begged, never asked, never trusted. Yet here she was, standing weak and broken before him. Against his training, he stepped closer. His hand slowly reached out, not for his weapon, but toward her arm. She flinched, her eyes widening. For her people, touch was forbidden. They believed contact was weakness. Yet in her silence, she did not pull away. His fingers brushed against her cold skin, and she felt something she had never known before, warmth. Her breath shook, and she almost collapsed. He caught her, holding her steady. Her body was light but tense. Like she carried years of fear inside, he whispered, "You're safe," though he was not sure it was true. She looked up at him with wide eyes, filled with confusion and something deeper. For the first time in her life, she had felt the touch of a human. The outpost alarm stayed silent, but in her mind a louder alarm rang. She should have pushed him away. She should have called her people. Yet her heart beat in a way it never had before. The warmth of his hand seemed to echo through her body, shaking her spirit. She did not understand it, but she wanted to feel it again. The soldier looked at her wounds, blood glowing faintly in alien color. He pulled a cloth from his pack, pressing it gently against her skin. She gasped, not from pain but from shock. Her voice finally broke the silence, soft and trembling. "Why?" she whispered. "Why do you touch me?" Her words were not angry. They were confused, almost pleading. He hesitated, searching for an answer. "Because you need help," he said simply. His words were plain, but to her they carried a weight. Her people did not help, they commanded. They ordered, they punished. But this man, this human, touched her without fear, without demand. As he worked to cover her wound, she kept staring at his hand. Every brush of his skin felt like fire and comfort. Her lips trembled as if she wanted to speak more. But the fear of her own feelings held her silent. She was an alien warrior, raised to fear weakness. And yet she stood here wishing for the touch of someone forbidden. The stars above continued to shine, cold and endless. But in that silent encounter, something had changed. In the middle of a lonely outpost, a human soldier and an alien woman stood bound by something neither could name. She had come broken and proud, and he had reached out with nothing but warmth. And in that moment, she realized she wanted it again. Not once, not by mistake, but again and again. The night after their first meeting, she could not sleep. Her body healed slowly. But her mind was restless. For the first time in her life, she felt something her kind never spoke about. The warmth of human touch still burned on her skin, echoing inside her like a hidden flame. She pressed her hand against her chest, confused and afraid. Her people taught her that humans were dangerous. They called them reckless, untamed, and filled with emotions that weaken the mind. But the soldier had been different. He had not raised his weapon. He had not mocked her weakness. Instead, he had reached for her when she was falling. His simple words, "You're safe," repeated in her head again and again. Curiosity began to grow. She told herself it was foolish, forbidden, yet she could not stop. Each night, she left her camp and wandered near the human outpost. Hiding in the shadows, she watched him. He sat near a small fire, his eyes tired but calm. Sometimes he spoke to himself. Sometimes he looked at the stars. She found herself listening, even though she did not understand every word. The soldier seemed ordinary, yet to her he was a mystery. Why did he risk himself for her? Why did his hand feel different from all she had known? The memory of his touch pulled her back. Like a chain she could not break, she hated the weakness it gave her. But she hated even more the emptiness when he was gone. One night, he sensed something. His head turned sharply toward the darkness where she hid. Her heart raced, she almost fled, but her legs refused to move. His voice broke the silence, calm but steady. "I know you're there," he said. "You don't have to hide." Her breath caught. He had discovered her. She stepped out slowly, her body trembling. The firelight lit her face, showing the conflict in her eyes. The soldier did not reach for his weapon. Instead, he only watched her, patient, waiting. It was strange for her people. Patience was weakness, yet with him it felt powerful. "I should not be here," she whispered. Her voice cracked. "If they find me, I will be punished." Her words were heavy with fear, but also with longing. The soldier tilted his head. "Then why are you here?" he asked softly. She looked away, unable to answer. Her silence was louder than words. The truth was too dangerous to speak. She wanted to feel it again, the human touch that warmed her when she was cold. She wanted to know if it was real or only a trick of her mind. The fire popped, and the sound made her flinch. He noticed. His eyes softened. He saw the conflict written all over her face. "You don't have to explain," he said at last. His voice was low, steady, like the ground beneath her feet. That calmness broke something inside her. Against her will, she stepped closer, her hand lifted slightly. Trembling in the air between them, her lips parted, but she could not say the words. The soldier looked at her hand, then back at her eyes. He understood, but he waited. She had to choose. The moment stretched into silence. The stars above seemed to watch. The air grew heavy with suspense. Finally she whispered, "Will you—" Again, her words hung between them. Fragile, broken, but filled with desperate curiosity. His chest tightened. He knew what she asked. A simple touch. Yet it was not simple at all. It was a bridge between worlds that should never meet. Slowly, carefully, he reached out his hand. Her breath caught as his skin brushed hers once more. This time she did not flinch. This time she leaned closer. The warmth rushed through her again. Stronger, brighter. She closed her eyes, her heart pounding in her chest. It was forbidden, it was dangerous, but it was real. In that moment, she knew the truth. She would return again. No matter the risk, her curiosity had become hunger, and her hunger would not let her go. The nights grew heavier, yet she returned again and again. Each time she told herself it would be the last, but her steps always carried her back to the outpost. The human soldier never chased her away, never questioned too much. He only sat by his fire, waiting. As if he knew she would appear, her people would call her a traitor if they knew. To them, weakness was shame, and asking for comfort was forbidden. But her heart could no longer carry the silence. The memory of his touch haunted her waking hours. It was not only her body that remembered, but her spirit. She felt alive in ways she never had before, and it terrified her. This night was colder than the rest. Frost spread across the ground, and her breath came out in pale clouds. She stepped into the firelight, her hands trembling not from the cold, but from the storm inside her. The soldier looked up, his eyes calm, patient. "You came back," he said softly. She nodded. But her lips could not form the words she carried. He offered her a seat by the fire. She lowered herself slowly, every movement filled with tension. Silence stretched between them, broken only by the crackle of the flames, her eyes fixed on his hand resting on his knee. Strong, steady, waiting, she bit her lip, fighting against the chains of her upbringing. Finally her voice broke, fragile as glass. "Do it again," she whispered. The soldier turned his head slightly. Unsure. "What do you mean?" he asked. She swallowed hard, her chest rising with quick breaths. "Touch me again," she pleaded. Her words carried both fear and desperation. They fell into the night like a secret too heavy to hold. The soldier froze. He had not expected it. A request so simple, yet heavy with meaning. To her people, touch was corruption. To his people, touch was life. He studied her face, the glow in her alien eyes. the way her body trembled as though she was fighting an invisible war. "Are you sure?" he asked carefully. His voice was steady, but his heart beat fast. She nodded, though her eyes filled with conflict. "I should not ask," she whispered. "I should not even be here," her voice cracked. "But I cannot stop." Her hands clenched into fists, her pride breaking with every word. The fire snapped, sparks flying into the air. For a long moment, neither moved. Then the soldier reached out. Slowly, gently, his fingers brushed hers. And she shivered. The warmth spread through her again. Rushing like water breaking a dam, her lips parted in a shaky breath. Her shoulders dropped as if a great weight had lifted. Her eyes closed, and a tear slipped down her cheek. She quickly wiped it away, ashamed. "Why does it feel like this?" she whispered. "Why does it change everything?" The soldier had no answer. He only held her hand, firm but gentle, letting her feel what words could not explain. Her head tilted, her forehead almost touching his shoulder. She did not understand why she wanted to be closer, why her body leaned forward even when her mind screamed to stop. She hated the weakness, yet she longed for it. In her voice was a truth she had never admitted before. "I do not want to be alone anymore," she said. The soldier's eyes softened. He knew what she risked by saying it. He also knew this moment would not end quietly, somewhere beyond the stars. Her people would not forgive. But here, by the fire, she had pleaded not as a warrior, not as an alien, but as someone who needed, and as his hand stayed with hers, both of them knew nothing would ever be the same again. The night after her plea, something had changed. She no longer came to him as a stranger. She came as if drawn by a force she could not resist. Her eyes no longer hid in the shadows. Her steps no longer trembled with as much fear. Still, her heart raced with every breath, for she knew each visit was a step deeper into danger. The soldier sat waiting, the firelight painting his face with soft gold. When she appeared, he only nodded, as if it was natural for her to return. She sat closer this time, not across the fire, but beside him. The distance between them had grown smaller, though the weight of the galaxy pressed heavy around them. He reached out again, gently, testing her choice. Her hand lifted to meet his, no hesitation this time. Their fingers brushed, then locked together. It was a simple act to him, but to her it felt like a wall breaking inside. A barrier her people had built for centuries was crumbling with each touch. She felt warmth spread through her chest, and she wondered how something so small could change everything. She studied his face, the lines of weariness, the calm strength in his eyes. Her people taught her to see humans as wild, without control, but here, sitting by the fire, she saw not chaos, but balance, not danger, but comfort. It made her chest ache, and she hated that she wanted more. "Why do you not fear me?" she asked softly. Her voice broke the silence like a fragile string. The soldier turned his head toward her. "Should I?" he replied. His words were calm, almost playful, but she heard the truth in them. He was not afraid, not of her power, not of her difference, and that truth shook her. Her lips trembled. "If my people see this, they will call me broken," she whispered. "They will punish me." Her grip on his hand tightened, as though she was afraid he might vanish. He looked at her with steady eyes. "Then let them," he said. His voice was simple, but his words were fire to her heart. In the distance, shadows moved. Other aliens of her kind had begun to notice her absences. She felt their eyes in the night, watching, whispering, but she could not stay away. The fire between her and the human soldier was stronger than their fear, stronger than the rules. She leaned closer, her forehead brushing his shoulder. For the first time, she let herself rest. The tension in her body melted, and she whispered so low he almost missed it. "When you touch me, I feel alive." The soldier did not answer with words. He only held her hand tighter, and that was enough. The stars above shimmered cold, but between them the air was warm. Each second felt dangerous, yet each second pulled them deeper. It was no longer curiosity, no longer accident, it was choice. It was her barrier breaking, her soul bending toward something forbidden. From the darkness a sharp sound echoed, a stone breaking under a foot. She stiffened, her head snapping toward the noise. Her people were closer than she thought. Her heart raced. She knew discovery would bring ruin. Yet as she turned back to him, his calm eyes steadied her. He did not release her hand. Not even as the danger crept nearer. Her voice shook. "I should leave," she whispered. But her body refused to move. She wanted to run, yet she wanted to stay more. And in that silent battle, she realized the truth. The barrier was not outside her, it was inside, and tonight, it had shattered completely. The days passed, but she was no longer the same. Her people noticed the change first. They saw it in her eyes, in the way her voice shook when she spoke, in the way she stood apart as if carrying a secret. Once she had been cold like them, her words sharp, her heart silent. Now there was a warmth in her movements, a softness that made them whisper. She tried to hide it. But every night her steps returned to the human outpost. Every night she sat by the fire, her hand slipping into his. At first it had been fear and curiosity. Now it was need. His touch was no longer strange. It was comfort. It filled the emptiness her people had never spoken about. She found herself laughing at his small jokes, watching the way his eyes softened when he spoke. It was something she had never known. In the quiet hours she began to dream. Dreams of a life her kind would never allow. Dreams where she did not walk alone. She hated the weakness of it. But she hated more the thought of losing it. And in those dreams, the human soldier was always there. Steady, patient, waiting. But the whispers around her grew louder. Her people asked where she went. They followed her with suspicious eyes. She lied, saying she walked to clear her mind, saying she trained alone in the night. Yet deep down, she knew they felt the truth. They sensed the change inside her, a change that would spread fear if revealed. One evening, as she sat with him by the fire, her voice broke. "They are watching me," she whispered. Her hands trembled, though he held them steady. "They know something is wrong." The soldier's eyes narrowed, not in anger, but in thought. He understood the risk, even if she did not explain fully. "Then why come back?" he asked quietly. His voice was low but firm. She lifted her face, eyes glowing under the firelight. "Because I cannot stay away," she said. Her words shook, but they were true. "When I am with them, I am cold. When I am here, I am alive." The soldier said nothing at first. His silence carried weight. She feared rejection, feared he would tell her to leave for her own safety. But instead, he reached out, brushing a strand of her hair back. The simple act made her chest tighten. "Then you already know your choice," he said softly. Her heart pounded. The choice was not simple. To stay meant exile, maybe worse. To leave meant betrayal of everything she was raised to believe. Yet her heart was no longer hers to command. It beat differently now, with fire instead of ice, that night. As she walked back to her people, she felt every eye on her. The whispers grew louder. Her steps slowed, her chest tightened. They would demand answers soon, she knew it. She also knew one truth she could not erase. One human had touched her, and she was never the same again. When she looked at her reflection in the still water of the camp, she no longer saw only an alien warrior. She saw someone softer, someone broken and rebuilt. The firelight of the outpost burned in her eyes, and she pressed her hand against her chest. Remembering his warmth, for the first time, she did not fear the change. For the first time she wanted it, even if it destroyed her. The whispers finally turned into action. Her people could no longer ignore the change in her eyes. They called her before the council, their faces cold and unyielding. "You walk alone too often," they said. "Your spirit feels weakened." Their voices were sharp. Accusing, she bowed her head, but inside her heart raced. She thought of the human soldier, of the firelight, of the warmth she could not forget. That night she did not go to him. Fear chained her steps. She sat in her chamber, her hands trembling. Her mind screamed to stay away, but her heart ached with emptiness. The silence of her people pressed against her chest like a heavy stone. She knew they were watching, waiting. She knew if she returned to the outpost, everything would be exposed, but she could not resist. At midnight she slipped away. Her feet carried her across the cold ground. When she reached the firelight, he was waiting. His eyes softened when he saw her, but his face grew serious when he noticed the fear in hers. "They know," she whispered. "They feel it. They watch me." The soldier's jaw tightened. He understood the danger more than she did. "Then it's not safe for you to be here," he said. But her head shook fiercely. "It is not safe for me anywhere," she replied. Her eyes glistened. "When I am with them, I am already dying inside." He wanted to speak, to tell her to stop, but the words never came. Instead, he reached out, his hand brushing hers. Her breath caught, her body trembling. She leaned into the warmth, and her lips whispered, "Even if it destroys me, I cannot let go." From the darkness, movement stirred. The soldier noticed first. His hand dropped to his weapon, but she grabbed his wrist, shaking her head. "If you fight them, you will die," she whispered. Her people had followed her, their glowing eyes appearing one by one in the shadows. The night filled with silence heavier than war drums. A tall figure stepped forward. One of her leaders, his voice was ice. "You are broken," he said. His gaze cut through her and then turned to the soldier. And it is because of him, the soldier stood his ground, his grip on his weapon firm, but the alien woman stepped in front of him. Her body was small against theirs, yet her stance was unshaken. "Do not touch him," she said. Her voice trembled but carried strength. The council members stared in shock. No one of her kind had ever spoken such words for a human. Their whispers turned into sharp breaths. "You protect him," one spat. "You betray us," another hissed. Her chest rose and fell quickly, but she did not back down. "If this is betrayal, then I accept it," she declared. Her hand reached back, gripping the soldiers tightly. "I will not let you take him." The leader's face twisted with fury. "You will be punished," he warned. The soldier's eyes narrowed, ready for battle. But she shook her head again, whispering to him, "No fighting." "Not yet." Her people stepped closer, their shadows stretching long across the ground. The soldier leaned near her ear, his voice low. "They will come for me," she nodded, her heart heavy. "And I will stand with you," she said. For the first time, she realized her choice was final. There was no going back to silence, no hiding. Her plea, her touch, her secret had become something greater. The great risk had arrived, and in that moment, under the watch of her people, she chose him, no matter the cost. The council gathered at dawn. Their shadows stretched long across the ground, cold and unforgiving. The alien woman stood in the center, her body tense, her hand still linked with the human soldier beside her. Never in the history of her kind had such a scene been witnessed. An alien warrior standing side by side with a human, not as enemy, not as prey, but as something more. The leader's voice cut through the silence. Sharp as a blade, "You are corrupted," he declared. "One human hand has broken you." His words were meant to shame her, to crush her spirit, yet she lifted her chin, her eyes glowing not with fear but with fire. "No," she said, her voice steady. "One human hand has awakened me." Gasps echoed among her people. They had never heard such words. She stepped forward, pulling the soldier with her. "You tell us that humans are chaos. You tell us they are weak. But look at him." Her hand tightened around his. "He gave me warmth when I was cold. He gave me strength when I was broken. He touched me without chains, without fear, without lies." The soldier said nothing. His silence carried weight. His presence was enough. His steady eyes met the crowd, showing no weakness, only quiet defiance. The alien woman's voice grew louder. "If this is weakness, then I choose it. If this is corruption, then I embrace it." The leader's face twisted, his voice rising with anger. "You stand against your people," he hissed. She shook her head. "I stand for myself," she answered. Her words struck like thunder, shaking the silence that followed. Her people stared at her, some with rage, some with confusion, and a few with something else, something like doubt. The soldier stepped closer, his shoulder brushing hers. She felt his warmth steady her trembling legs. Her voice softened but carried even more strength. "I was born into silence, into coldness, into rules that kill the heart. But one human changed that. He showed me what it means to live, what it means to feel." Her chest rose with a deep breath. "And I will not let that be taken away," the council members muttered, some demanding punishment, others hesitating. The leader raised his hand to strike her down, but she stepped forward before he could. Her own voice thundered, "If you destroy me for this, then know the truth. You are not destroying weakness. You are destroying something stronger than you have ever known. The silence was heavy. Her people shifted uneasily. Their eyes moved from her to the soldier, to their linked hands. The fire of her defiance spread like a spark. For the first time, they saw one of their own refuse the chains, refuse the coldness. They saw the change. The soldier finally spoke, his voice calm but cutting through the tension. I did not come to break her, he said. I came only to help her when she needed it. But if that simple act can shake your entire world, then perhaps it is not her who is weak, his words echoed. Simple, yet powerful. The leader lowered his hand, rage burning in his eyes, but he did not strike. Around him, the whispers grew louder. She stood taller, her hand never leaving the humans, her eyes locked with his. And in that silent moment they both knew. There was no turning back. She had chosen. She had crossed the line her people feared. She had embraced what they called weakness and turned it into strength. And as the sun rose, lighting the sky in gold, one truth remained clear. One human had touched her, and she would never be the same again.